Hey, this is John, and this is my periodization template. So, this program is for wrestling. Um, some of the energy requirements you need constant isometric muscle contraction. A lot of the like holds and you call them ties. They are isometric, which means you will be stuck in one position. Um, that is very demanding. And then that's paired with explosive movements and very explosive movements like takedowns and stuff where you're lifting people off the ground. Then you have fast-paced moving, which is very already pretty demanding, and then you have to be really strong, and you have to do all of that for 7 minutes. So it's requiring every single energy system that you could use. We got ATP system, glycolic, anaerobic glycolic system, aerobic system, and the ATP we're tapping in with those explosive movements, right? Glycolic's going to be when we're in those ties, right? We're in those isometric holds. We're going to burn through that, right? And then we have aerobic, which is just being in our stance and moving around at a fast pace. It's going to be an aerobic system because the whole thing's for 7 minutes, so you're definitely tapping in there. The strategy is you don't want to waste all your energy too. You don't want to squeeze a dude too hard. You don't want to you can't be using all your strength at once, right? So, but you need to be very strong. So, because obviously, if you use all that strength at once, your glycolic system will, you'll run out. You won't be able to restore your ATP to do more explosive movements, right? It's kind of besides the point, but just wanted to highlight the demands of the sport. Most people just do not understand the demands of the sport unless they've actually done it. So, this is a copy of my macro cycle. Um, it looks a little weird, I know, but we have we have like a preseason, right? I like to do my mesocycle one there, and it seems out of order, but you'll see just because of the way wrestling season loops, right? So some of this it says from 2026, 2026, right? To kind of properly explain this for a year, it's going to have to go into a year. Like the dates will have to go into like 2027 or we take it back to 2025. Just because these cycles in mesocycle 4, right? This isn't me explaining it. This is what it kind of is, but this is just important for you to understand. Um, these mesocycles here, right? This is season, but it overlaps because it's a winter sport. So for the sake of simplicity, I will be explaining it like it is going into 2027, but just for reference on the chart, that's not like how it's labeled on the chart. That's just like how it is, But this is right. It's just for simplicity of explaining it, will be going to 2027. So we'll start at Mesocycle 1, which is going to be postseason, actually. Sounds weird, right? But just bear with me. So Mesocycle 1, postseason, right? We have the first 1 to 4 weeks of postseason. We just want to build our strength up, right? Rebuilding our strength, trying to get it back up to where it was preseason, right? So let me kind of switch in between slides when I'm doing this. The 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 first rebuilding phase, first 1 to 4 weeks, right? We should be able to get basically close to our peak preseason strength or at preseason strength, just with some hypertrophy strength building blocks. They're going to be short blocks, right? We're going to go into the microcycles and look. So I chose to do a um, twice a week lifting regimen. The first, so right here it says load is 65%. It doesn't explain periodization. This is just because this is just going to be for the postseason because we're trying to rebuild our strength, right? Obviously, you want to keep your strength throughout the season, but that's not feasible with wrestling. I don't cut weight. I'm a heavyweight, but I still can't maintain all my strength throughout the whole season. It's just too demanding of a sport. Injuries happen. No one goes through a whole season not getting something nagging, Everyone gets something. It's just because it's 5 months of just beating each other up. So we have, again, it's going to progress. This is the first 2 weeks, right? So the first 2 weeks, we're just going to do 65% at a 3x8. 3x8. It's not too heavy. It's not too light. So we're going to do twice a week. So Tuesday, Saturdays, and then Monday, Friday. Tuesday, Saturday, or Tuesday, Sunday, whichever one you want to do. That's why I like to do this. That's why I put it to where it doesn't say Saturday specifically, because if I want to wait an extra day, I can wait an extra day because the program allows me to, right? So we have, we really just, this is just throughout the whole everything. We just want to focus on our forms and lifts, watch for elbow flare on bench press, because elbow flare on bench press is going to lead to shoulder issues. If you're flaring like this, just keep your elbows tucked. That's the main thing, right? So we have bench press, which is just overall amazing upper body exercise, right? Pull-ups, very important for wrestling. Probably the most important upper body exercise for wrestling is pull-ups, because a lot of the holds, you're pulling, you grab someone's leg, you're pulling, right? So you're using your lats, you're using your rear delts, you're using your rhomboids, you're using your biceps, you're using everything in your back, right? You're using your super spinated, you're using everything, right? So we that's why we're doing pull-ups, right? Then we have overhead press, right? This is going to be really good because there's a lot of posting motion. So if you're not pulling somebody, you're going to be posting up on them to allow you to get to their leg, right? So overhead press is going to be really good for posting up, right, on someone to basically, take them down, right? So dumbbell rows, right? Dumbbell rows. Why I chose dumbbell rows um over barbell rows is because if you're shooting in on somebody, one of your arms is either doing the post I was just talking about, or the other arm is pulling, right? With the rear delt, like a rear delt fly I was talking about. Right? Or no, or it would be like more like a face pull or something, but like I was talking about, right? So pulling here, right? And I'm twisting my body and I'm going to pull to row that leg in, right? So doing a barbell row you're still working the muscles you need to work, but it's not going to be as functional as as a dumbbell row, because you are bringing this arm and you're pulling with this arm first, and then you're pulling your other arm in to grab it, right? So you will be eventually with your arms together doing like a row together, but it's never going to be equally balanced because they're fighting you, right? So if they're fighting, they're trying to get their leg this way, I'm trying to pull it this way, right? So I'm never, unless they're a complete fish, which then you don't have to worry about any of this because you're going to pin them, right? So it doesn't matter, right? So if you pull that in, right, you're fine, right? So that's why the dumbbell rows are very important for getting like unilateral like pulling in different directions. So rotator cuff internal external rotation, we're gonna be doing this. So we're gonna be doing this way, and then we're gonna lay down on our side. You probably can't see me, and then go get the other way. Right. What this is doing is just, I have a lot of shoulder problems. I dislocated my shoulder last year. Very important. I think everybody should do rotator cuff stability and mobility work, just because, to prevent shoulder injury. I think also too they're used. You're using those in wrestling. There's tons of isometric. If I'm in a collar tie, I'm using my supraspinatus, teres minor, subscapularis. I'm using the 4 rotator cuff muscles just like isometrically. So you need to make those strong, and you can also do. I'll also do this too. Is a band, right? Doing it like that just on the occasion, just to get some isometric work in. Lateral raise. This is just for balance. I mean, we're not. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, yeah, you'll be isometrically contracting your whole body, lateral raise. You just need to work everything, right? Just to make sure you're balanced, right? We don't have underdeveloped side delts. Rear delt fly. I like to do them, bend over, do them like this. I have it hyperlinked. I think that's very important. I think rear delt strength is just so important for wrestling. So many people just focus on the lats. You work those rear delts to make sure those are strong. You'll be able to. There's more pulling motions than just the lats in wrestling. Tricep extensions. Anytime you snap somebody down to the mat, you're extending your triceps at the end of the motion. Very important. That's going to be more. Most of the time, tricep extension is actually going to be together, not unilateral. So that's very good to do those. Like it makes it easier because you don't have to do them both unilaterally like the dumbbell rows, right? So save some time on the lift because you can just go to the thing, do 3 sets of tricep extensions and get out of there, right? 65% because we're rebuilding, right? Don't want to injure ourselves. Now I'm gonna explain the leg day before we explain the cardio because cardio is basically going to be the same, mostly the same throughout the whole program, right? Because we have practice, but there's no way I can measure a practice and put it on this cardio template. And I track my heart rate, and I still don't know how I would put it on. I'll explain it, but it is very practices are very intense. They are even a light practice is probably you're going to be in the red zone. The heart rate's going to be above 175 for 90. You're going to be at like 90% of your VO2 max in like a light practice, which I personally believe many wrestling programs, not just our wrestling program, every wrestling program, at least like even like the good ones know what they're doing. Like the Penn State, obviously the best wrestling programs are like Penn State, Oklahoma State. They literally will take breaks, right? They will do it right, and they know when to pull it back, right? But and those are literally just like the best Division One programs, right? It's not even just like you'll get like a top 10 Division One program, they'll still be doing it wrong, right? But they overtrain way too much. It's a huge issue in the wrestling community. I feel like it can lead to some not just physical, it can lead to mental health issues. It can lead to so many issues because like you're putting all this work in, right, and then you're not getting the result you want. But you're not getting the result you want because you're so overtrained, and that's an issue I've had a lot. I've had that issue a lot, especially in my sophomore year, because I put in so much work and I didn't get the result I wanted. Because and this year, honestly, and this is kind of part of the reason I made this program the way I did, is because I had so much I had so much high hopes because I was put in more work than anybody, but then if your body's not going to function the way you want it to, if you don't have your glycogen stores are depleted because I'm burning 2,000 calories. I wear a heart rate monitor. I'm burning 2,000 calories in a practice on average, sometimes three, right? If I'm doing extra work, right? In a practice, and I can't properly, if I'm doing that every day, like I'm not going to eat enough to properly restore my glycogen stores. Like I can try, but that's so unrealistic, especially with me only having 10 meal swipes in the cafeteria. Like that's just unrealistic, right? So we have weighted lunges, right? Weighted lunges are really important. There's wrestling moves called, the basic wrestling move is called a penetration step. We'll actually talk about the forward lunge first. The forward lunge is more like the penetration step, right? So you're putting your knee on the mat, right? When you put your knee on the mat, that's a lunging motion, kind of you're just going forward, right? So the forward lunge helps with stability throughout that whole movement and just like explosiveness off the trail leg throughout that whole movement because that's what you're working, right? Weighted lunges is referring to a barbell backwards lunge. So once you hit your knee on the mat and you bring your trail leg up to lift the person up, you're lifting from a weighted lunge 90% of the time. Unless you get both, like you're going to be you need to get yourself up to lift them, and that's going to be a weighted lunge right there. Um, Very functional lift, both very functional lifts for wrestling. Romanian deadlifts, we just need to build up hamstring strength and reduce risk of injury. I think Romanian deadlifts is a really good way to do that without the risk of a deadlift injury. I don't think deadlifting is necessarily wrong. I think a lot of people have a negative stigma against like an off the ground deadlift. I just think with wrestling, it might not be the best combination. I used to deadlift off the ground a lot. I never got like, I mean, in high school I had some back injuries, but that wasn't really related. You know, I think off the ground deadlifting, I didn't really have any back issues when I was doing it, but I just feel like long term might not be the best for wrestling specifically. Single leg glute bridges. Only reason I do single leg glute bridges is because why why do I want to go to the hip thrust machine and load 600 pounds of the hip thrust machine, or however much 6 plates, however much weight I'm putting on there, right? Why do I want to do that when I can just grab a 80 to 100 pound uh like weight and just do it with one leg? That's a lot easier. Um, Knee raises. That's just going to be hanging from a bar and just raising my knee. I hyperlinked the video so you can see because that would be a little tricky. And then hip adduction, abduction, just for stability, just to make sure we're working everything correctly. And all these like yeah, I mean technically, ideally, we'll do this at 65%, right? Hip abduction and knee raises, but you can't really do that, right? You don't. You're just doing the exercise. Same with like rear delt fly, tricep extensions, lateral raise. We're just for this part we're doing light, just because we're right. This is the first right after postseason. We need to build up our strength and make sure we're not injuring ourselves. All right. So the cardio and the stretches, obviously, we're just gonna do these stretches every day, right? When we're warm, right after we lift, we're doing these stretches every day: pigeon stretch, pec stretch, lat stretch, hamstring stretch, quad stretch. We'll get the hip flexor with the quads. We're just stretching those, right? And so you start off light after the 2 week break, transitional. I'll get into that, but um, so our cardio is gonna be aerodyne energy system development or energy system demands. We're gonna do some aerodyne bike. Right, and what this is gonna do is we're gonna do it for 30 seconds at RP 18. So on a scale of 6 to 20, we're going to try to get our heart rate up to above 180. Right, which is actually not that intense. We're gonna go up to 19 later in this program, right before competition, just to really try and get our cardio up. So 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off for 6 minutes. All right, this is because off season. Off season wrestling is only 6 minutes. In season wrestling is 7 minutes. All right. So this is going to be 4 times a week. We need to be consistent with it, just so we have that competitive edge in conditioning, right? Because 30 seconds on, you're going 100, pretty much close to as hard as you can at 180 beats per minute, right? Maybe a little bit less. we're getting that working. We just got to get that working. This will be really good to use those 15 seconds to recover. So you're still pedaling, right? You'll be at RP 12, which obviously your heart rate's not going to get down to 120, right? But I think the RP 18 should be used as a more literal, and then the RPE 12 should be used as a more subjective point of effort. And that's just because you're not going to get your heart rate down to 120, but you should be maybe pedaling at a point of like a little bit more than a brisk walk. You know what I'm saying? Like it should be like you're recovering your ATP PCR system, and you're just recovering your aerobic system too during that 30 seconds. Your glycolic system, you're recovering those systems, right? So you can use it for the next 30 seconds to be explosive, and it trains you good, because I can't do 10 explosive movements in the first 2 minutes and end the match, right? It's not realistic. You're not going to do that on everyone, right? And if you do, again, you're not going to even get to that point, because you're going to pin them probably, because you're just that much better than them, right? So you need to learn how to conserve your energy and breathe. And while we're doing this, we need to make sure we're taking diaphragmatic breaths like this. And we want to do that and extend our, not necessarily hold your breath, maybe hold your breath for just like a half second, right? We want to make sure we're slowing down our breathing so the capillaries in our lungs are, they're absorbing the oxygen from the air and you're allowing diffusion to happen in your lungs to the alveoli, right? We really need that to happen, right? Because like 40% of you'll only get 40% oxygen saturation if you're going, which is what like 99% of people do when they wrestle, right? You're getting 40% oxygen saturation, but if you, that right there, while you're doing intense exercise, you're getting like 80% oxygen saturation. You're gonna like double your conditioning, like which is like double your conditioning. What does that even mean? I don't know, right? Just bear with me. You're doubling your conditioning just by doing that, right? Uh, right. So I talked about the stretches, 30 seconds each. Then we'll go to the next progressive part of this. So we got we're again focusing on our form. So these two, right? So these are the next parts. So this was from the first week to the second week, this was for the first 2 weeks, right? It was the first two, and then we have the next 2 weeks, right? Twice a week again, same exercise, exact same exercises. Most of this is the same exercises, right? Same exercises, same exercises, just different rep schemes, right? 75%, right? Obviously, all these is 3 minutes rest, right? We just want to have enough time to recover we don't need as much as the accessories, obviously. We want enough time to recover, but we don't want to make it too short, So, right, same thing, just 75%, right? Cardio is the same on this one, right? Still building up our strength. We should be built up to the preseason strength, right? We should be built up the preseason strength here, right? 75% again. So here's where it changes. We're going to go back to copy macro. So weeks 5 to 8, we're going to start building strength. All right, we really need to build strength, right? Because we have a postseason comp in June. All right, this June probably going to be May 31st this year or June 1st, right? That's going to be postseason competition. It's going to be in Geneva, Ohio. All right, it's the Olympic Training Center in Geneva, Ohio. It's U23 Nationals there, which is under 23, so basically collegiate nationals, right? But for freestyle, which is a 6 minutes instead of folk style, which is 7 minutes. Freestyle is it's a lot more fast paced. I think it's probably not as demanding on your aerobic system, but it's more demanding on your like ATP system. A lot more explosive movements. Right. So we have those 2 days probably will be the tournament most likely this year. I need to check around that time. Right. Pretty sure it's May 31st and June 1st. Right. So that's technically going to be in our off season. Right. Obviously, we're not going to be lifting during there. Right. Go back to here. Right. We're going to switch to a 3x5. So April 20th to May 20th, and then for the leg day, just because it's one more day ahead, right? It'll be the 21st to the 21st, right? So you have a 3x5, right? At 85%, that's pretty aggressive, right? In terms of just starting out 3x5, right? We need to build up strength though. So it shouldn't be too much. We want to really, again, be above that 85% for maximum strength building. That's what they say is heavy lifting, right? ACSM, heavy lifting. 85%, right? Reduce it where you're secreting testosterone at that. It's really good, right? Really good for you. This is still going to be light, all this stuff, but tricep extensions needs to be heavy, right? Heavier for 3x12. All this stuff, you're not going to be doing heavy rotator cuff internal external rotation. That's just asking for an injury, right? Lateral raise, again, asking for an injury. Rear delt fly, you're asking for injury if you're going super heavy, right? Same cardio, right? No. Cardio is slightly different because we're doing RPE 19, so we're getting up to 100 90 beats per minute, and then you're going 15 seconds off for 6 minutes, right? So since we're going to taper for competition, I'll talk about that in a minute, right? But since we're doing that, right, we want to make sure we're getting really like a lot of good exercise in there, a lot of really hard cardio. Like I said, 85%, 3x5. What we're doing though is about we're going to add probably, maybe I have 1.25 pound plates. We're going to add some of those every workout, right? The progression will make in the postseason or preseason will be a lot more structured because we have a lot more time before competition to actually structure a program, and you'll see that. But we will be doing 85% 3x5, adding 2.5 pounds if needed. If it's super hard, maybe we want to stick there again and try to hit it with better form, right? Really needs to be subjective because we're about to compete, right? We don't want to make ourselves burnt out. We don't want to mess it up, basically, right? So, and this is going to be for a month, right? Twice a week for a month, each upper body, lower body, twice a week. Same stretches. Trying to be strong as possible for postseason comp. Go back to here. Week 9 is going to be taper. All right. Tapering it needs to be subjective. You can't yes, you can make a program for a taper, but for me, I need to listen to my body and let myself rest. Eat 8 to 10 carbs a day because I don't have to cut weight. Eat 8 to 10 carbs a day. Completely fill my grams per kilogram. 8 to 10 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. Completely fill up my glycogen stores and maybe do some bike stuff and maybe get a drill session in 2 days before. 2 days before, just take it light. Most people don't understand that for wrestling. You need to take it light to feel good, right? Week 9, okay. So then we're going to compete on June 1st and 31st, okay? Then Mesocycle 2 is off season. That's going to be our only off season, right? It's 2 weeks of just nothing. We're chilling, going on vacation, taking a break for our mental health, for our physical health. Wrestling is too hard of a sport to just do all the time. All right. I made that mistake. I don't think I took this transitional period, which also too, we'll throw that in right now just for simplicity. Mesocycle 5 is also transitional, walking, stretching. Maybe you do that in off season too, but we really transitional, just walk and stretch right after the post, right after the season, right? Before we start a postseason schedule, right? We take the 9 days to just chill and rest, right? And that's really important for just taking a chill. I did that this year, and I never did that before, and I felt good. Felt good afterwards. I actually wrestled really well after, during practice. I was like, damn, I actually started doing good, It's but so then we're gonna go into the off season. Obviously, don't have any program for that. No, nothing for that, right? Preseasons where we're gonna try to aggressive strength building. Week 1 to 12, we're gonna very aggressive strength building, right? Gain as much strength as possible, and we're gonna use percentage of weight increase or add just straight up linear adding weight, right? To just facilitate progressive overload in some dimension, right? So we're starting off with our upper body, right, and lower body's next day, right? Upper body's going to be bench press, right, 3x5. We're going to start at 85%. So this is going to be for a month, right? June 12th to July 12th, right? This is going to be for a month. So 3x5, right? There's multiple ways we can do this. Again, I love it being subjective, percentage based, right? So we are starting at 85% of our 3x5, and we're trying by the end of the month, working up to 90% for that 3x5, right? I bench press 430 pounds. Okay, so I'm not gonna be able to gain every workout. All right, it's not gonna happen, right? So we're doing 3x5, right? We start at 85%, right? Let's say I have my 1.25 plates, let's say that 3x5 went up good, right? We're going to add a 2.5, right? Which percentage is gonna be in that gap, right? Because you're at 85%. That percentage will be in that gap, right? So I'm gonna add 2.5 on each side. I'm gonna go up 5 pounds, right? Because that felt good, right? Now that was really hard when I got done with that, right? So first week we're gonna start we're gonna do both of those workouts at the same weight. All right. I don't care if it's like super easy or if it's just a normal difficulty, right? And you feel like you could go up a little bit. Same weight for the week 1, right? It's 4 weeks. Same weight for week 1. Right, week 2, we're gonna go to 1 and if it was good, if you felt like you had some, we'll add a 2.5 each side. We'll go up 5 pounds, right? Week 3, you're probably not gonna feel as good, right? Because you're gonna be closer to 90%, right? So we're gonna add a 1.25 pound plate to this, right? We're gonna add a 1.25 pound plate and add 2.5 to the whole movement, right? And then we're gonna take those off for the week 4 and try to hit it, for at the 90%, So take those off, add a 5, work at the same percent, or at 90%, right? So, and we're gonna take that, right? Again, these are all the same. The accessory movements, right? They're all gonna be the same. We need to do them, right? Or we want to really start to incorporate plyometrics. We had it earlier, right? But these right here, right? Been doing the plyometrics, right? I didn't really explain that earlier. I should have. Chest pass, right, is just pushing, right? We're getting upper body plyometrics. And overhead press is going to be this. It's going to be really good for, again, your snap down movements, right? Doing this because you're really using your lats and your triceps and just throwing it over, and then might as well do a chest pass while you're at it, right? Jump and reach for the lower body plyometrics. Jump and reach, right? We're jumping, trying to jump high, and a step up. You're gonna be stepping up with one leg onto something really good for single leg explosivity, which at bent over is very important for wrestling, right? Very, very important. Weighted lunges, again, very important when we do 3x5 at that, 85, 90 to 90%. Same principle as the upper body movements. Don't need to explain that too much, right? Now, this is where it really gets hard, right? This is probably going to be our hardest strength training of the year, right? This is where we're going to max. We're going to max at the end of this program. We're going to take 3 to 4 days off at the end and just do a max, right? So we're doing the same thing. We did the same principle where I said adding 1/4, whatever the percentage you want to go up, trying working from 90 to 95% of your 1 rep max. Obviously, 95% of your 1 rep max is way too heavy for a 3x5, but the goal is to be stronger, right? So 95% of your previous 1 rep max is going to be that, right? So we have a 3x5 there. We're working to 95%, right? The last one. So that last Monday and Tuesday, right? That's going to be our last. We're going to take that off. That last Monday and Tuesday, we're going to take off to allow our body to rest for this 1 rep max. Optional if you want to take that off, feel really good. Maybe not. Maybe just do the same workout, right? Maybe do light, something, whatever, subjective, how you want to feel. This is going to be our only 1 rep max of the year. I don't believe in 1 rep maxing too much. I honestly don't know the last time I maxed, on anything, right? So I think it was it was probably around the same time last year. I'm pretty sure it was right before, I started. It was around, August, right? I think and I wasn't even really on too much of a program. I was, but look, literally August. That's just what it happened to be, right? Last time I maxed on lunges, same thing. We're maxing on lunges, right? We're maxing on lunges. I know it sounds like, what the hell are you doing? But we want to see if we've gained strength on the lunge, if it's worked. We want to see if we've gained strength on the bench press. We want to see if we've gained strength on pull-ups. We're going to max our weighted pull-ups. Overhead press, I'm not maxing that. I don't care. Dumbbell row, I'm not maxing that. Don't care. Um, Weighted lunge, forward lunge. Why would I max that, bro? Like, why would I max that? Romanian deadlift. I mean, I might go a little heavy set. I'm not about to max that though, right? We really just want to focus on weighted lunge, bench press, and pull ups, right? We want to see how much strength we have built, right? Then, we're going to the next thing. We're gonna change the exercises up a little bit, just cause we've been doing weighted lunges for the past from let's see, August. Been doing weighted lunges from March 22nd to August 20th. Or was it 20th? Or August 13th. Like, that's boring. Let's do something else, right? So we have, again, upper body, lower body day, right? Weighted dips. We're going to be doing a 3x5, right? Because we still want to be building strength. We need to build strength, right? We are doing a, again, I'm gonna get more of the cardio template right after this. All right, so I'm not skipping that. I swear. So 85% on the dips, right? So we have weighted dips. Honestly, I like those better than bench press. But yeah, that's what I have during season, right? So, but like I feel like I need to bench press. I don't know why. I don't know, but just feel like it. You got to change it up. I can't do weighted dips all the time. I can't do bench press all the time, right? So weighted dips, 85% plus 5. We're just adding 5 pounds because weighted dips, you slap 5 on there. See if you can do it for a 3x5, right? Because it's kind of like low, like it differs from day to day, right? Plus 5 pounds, every week. So 85% at 5 after that first week. Add another 5 for the next week. Add another 5 for the fourth week. See if you can hit it. If you don't hit it, who cares? Pull-ups, no, I can't do that with 5 pounds. Sorry. I'm gonna have to use the one, or actually, you can just on the bell, you can just add a quarter, right? Pull-ups, doing like way less weight, right? Unless you're like insane at pull-ups, right? So only adding 2.5 pounds. Same with dumbbell rows and overhead press. I have dumbbells that are adjustable, so they're like the Olympic style, and you can put weight on the dumbbells, right? So you can add 5 pounds. You can really do that properly. Back squat, we're basically leg day's the same. We're just replacing weighted lunge with back squat. Just do a back squat program, and we're gonna try to just get some good sets in on back squat. Same principle as before, as these two, as the ones I was just explaining. Now we're gonna do a hypertrophy program, right? Because we're about to hop in season, and we don't want to be having just done a however many months of strength programming and then hop in on this, right? That just sounds like a horrible idea for injury prevention and feeling good in right before that season starts training. Now, the season doesn't start when this starts, right? This is season lifting, right? 10-15. It starts on like 2 weeks later, right? But we need to start the season lifting needs to be started, right? So this right here, right? 3x10, we're going from 60% at the first week to 65% at the second week, right? Hypertrophy, 3x10, really trying to get a good, like, I feel like a 3x10 is good for wrestling. You're getting that good ATP, or like all that, like all good glycolysis. Like you're, just getting those. I feel like it's better for just translation to wrestling, in terms of like all the movements you have to do, and it helps with your conditioning a little bit more because it's a little bit more hypertrophic, right? Going back to this season, right? So season is going to be from 5 months, really long. It's a really long season, right? It's going to be from right here, November 1st to March 26th. Now you're probably like, why do you put the season? That's not what the rubric says. Why do you put the season at November or October 15th instead of November 1st? So what I just said earlier is the program, we want to, that's what we're going to be doing, right? We don't want to just immediately, the moment we compete is not our season, right? Yeah, it's our season technically, but our season practices probably start around the 13th, 14th, 15th, right? We don't know. We don't know this stuff. We don't get it on a program. It's usually when it starts, though, right? It's within those 3 days. So we're going to start bumping it down to 55% for a 3x10. It's not a lot. Not a lot of weight. But it's, in my opinion, it's the minimum amount I can do, or the maximum amount I can do, and still feel good enough to wrestle. Wrestling is way too demanding. There were like this last season, I was trying to lift a little heavy when I would lift, because I'd be like, what's the point in lifting if I'm not trying to do a weighted dip with like 1,000,000 pounds, right? So no, you need to bump the weight down, and you need to do it so you don't burn yourself out and want to die, right? So same thing with the cardio. Cardio is always going to be really intense. You have to always have good cardio, really, as always. One of these days, we're doing RP 19, and then one of these days, we're doing RP 18. Just because we want to, maybe one day we don't want to go to 190, 100. We only want to go to 190 beats per minute maybe once a week. But during practice, we're going to have to do that anyway. But, slight resistance to maintain. Not going to be super programmed, because some of these days, you're just going to take off. If you're doing this twice a week, and one of the weeks you feel really bad, maybe just do it once. Really important. If we look at the thing right here, right? So we're going to want to maintain our strength during the season. Very large emphasis on not overtraining. If it's too much, also we can bump it down to a 3x8 at 55% instead of a 3x10, right? Super high in carbs. We need to be eating like as much carbs as possible that aren't like really bad. Like no cake, obviously, no French fries, no KFC burger or whatever. You know what I mean? But no vegetable canola oil or whatever is bad, right? We just want to eat good carbs, rice, stuff like that, oatmeal. We just want to be eating high carbs, high glycemic index right before we work out. Super important. Most people that wrestle don't understand it. Practice is 2 hours. Their heart rate's like above 160 for like 40 minutes during the practice, right? And then they're like, why do I feel horrible at the end of the practice? Have a honey during practice. You know what I'm saying? Have a honey during practice. Have oatmeal right before practice with honey. Really high glycemic index that'll give you the energy for the practice. Have fruits maybe an hour before the practice, so you're breaking those down later in the workout, right? Very, very important. A cardio template, right? This is the last part, right? I swear, I don't know how long this is. I haven't checked the recording yet. We're going to take a while. I know this is probably over 30 minutes, right? Maybe not. I don't know, but my perception of time, right? It's basically our heart rate's going to be 90% every single time. I'm pretty sure it's the same, yeah. So during the mesocycle, depends on the mesocycle, right? 2 and 5, we have nothing, right? We're resting, transitional or resting. So there's nothing. Everything's aerodyne bike. That's all we do for cardio. That's all you get to do. Cross training. And then cardio, obviously practice on the side. That's it. I think that's going to be a really good program for myself. I think if anyone else, wants to use it, would like to see how they feel about it too. Anyway, that's it.